Hello everyone and welcome to this workshop. So this is part one of a three-part workshop series that I'm going to be leading, all about how we can overcome things like hormone imbalances, period pain, irregular periods, and things that eventually lead to things like PCOS and endometriosis. So I'm really excited to kick things off today with eliminating toxins. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jennifer Bago. And I help women with PCOS and endometriosis to reverse their symptoms, take back their power, and live life on their terms. So I hope that you have something to drink. I've got my lemon water here that I'll be using to keep me hydrated through this talk. So we're going to be here for about the next hour, so make sure you grab yourself something to drink, some water, some herbal tea, to keep you hydrated throughout the talk here. So I just have a few housekeeping items to go through with you before we get into things. So I want to let you know that this call is going to be recorded and that everyone on here live is going to be getting the replay, as well as anyone who couldn't make it live, they're going to be getting the emailed the replay as well. So on that note, as we're going through things, if you're worried about, taking notes or missing something, you think you missed something, not to worry. You are going to get a replay of this, so you can always go back and check in and take some notes then. So that being said, I have, so any links mentioned during the talk here will be also emailed out in the replay. So any links that we talk about and will be emailed out to you so you can peruse those. I do have some notes here just to keep me on track to make sure I don't miss anything. So I have a lot of great information for you today, which is awesome. But I also don't want to put you into overwhelm. So as we're going through things, as you're taking all the information in, I just want to encourage you to use the information to empower yourself. All right, I always like to look at information as knowledge. So I encourage you to do the same. So allow it to empower yourself instead of allowing you to kind of slip into overwhelm, which can sometimes happen when we're learning a lot of new information and potentially looking to make some changes in our lives. So I encourage you all to do that today as well. So if just a note about questions. So if you have any questions as we're going through things, feel free to pop them in the chat. However, I will wait till the end to answer any questions. So there will definitely be a time for question and answer, but I'll just hold off until the end of the workshop here. So I want to start things off by asking if you have ever experienced any kind of pain or discomfort around your cycle. I just want you to pop a number 1 into the chat box there. All right, so let's have anyone who's experienced that pop a number 1 into the chat box. Right, see some number 1s coming in there. And if you believe or have been told that this is normal or that this is just part of being a woman, type a number 2 in the chat box, right? Yeah, I see some 2s there. So this is what's happening, right? So this is the epidemic that I see happening, that these days it just seems normal for women to be in some kind of pain around our cycles, doesn't it? Right? Like I think it's because it's so common, it has become accepted as normal. So that's the epidemic that we're talking about here today, and that's what my mission in life is to get women out of pain and to educate you, to let you know that this isn't normal and this doesn't have to be the way you have to live. So I'm going to share my screen with you here so I can get my presentation up. All right. So did you know that 80% of women experience painful periods? All right, that's a big number. 30% of women experience an irregular cycle, whether that's too long, too short, too heavy, non-existent. And 10% of women are in such debilitating pain that it literally affects every aspect of their life. So we're literally talking about millions of women worldwide in pain each and every month, right? It's insane. It's insane. So like I mentioned, these days it just seems normal that it's commonly accepted for women to be in some kind of pain or discomfort around our cycles. And I want you to think about a question here that I have for you. So what if I told you that we're not actually meant to live in pain? Right? What if I told you that we're actually meant to live pain-free? Now, many of the women that I connect with are strong, powerhouse women, but every single month they are literally knocked out by cramping or debilitating pain, right? And some never recovered. But I don't want to see that. I want to see you thriving, which is why I take a stand for women, because so much of our time is spent feeling crappy, right? Imagine the impact we could have on our lives and on the world if we felt better, if we didn't have to be knocked down by these symptoms, right? Imagine if our health actually supported our goals and our dreams instead of standing in the way. So I didn't always have the answers, but now I do. So I'm so excited to be able to show you how as well. So I want to go over what we're going to be talking about today. So what we're talking about today, which is eliminating toxins, is such an important topic because our reality is that we live in a toxic world, right? Like we literally can't step outside without breathing in toxins. So today we're going to be talking about how toxins affect women's health in particular, which products are most toxic, how you can gradually shift to safer products, right? This is a really important step. I'm going to share with you the safe brands that I personally use and trust. And then we're going to spend some time talking about food and getting into organic versus conventional and when it's safe to buy one or the other. So before I get into the content, is it okay if I share my story about why I'm so passionate about the work that I do now? Thank you. So I was only officially diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, 4 years ago. But looking back, it was something that I struggled with for 15 years. Now, growing up, I was a pretty shy kid, but my shyness quickly turned to anxiety as I struggled with acne as a teenager. Right? I was constantly worried about what my skin was going to look like for big events or for things like picture days. And on top of that, I was what you call a late bloomer. So I was constantly, again, worried about what other girls would think. So I actually started wearing pads to gym class occasionally just to try and fit in and feel normal, right? Pretty crazy, right? So once my period actually did come, once it did finally arrive, it was far from normal. In fact, it was more like non-existent. Like, I mean, I would get it like once a year. And when my mom took me to the doctor, we weren't given any explanation as to why I had an irregular cycle or why I struggled with acne. I was simply prescribed the birth control pill. And for 10 years, the pill did its job of making sure my period showed up each and every month. But along with it came cramping, mood swings, breakouts, you know, just like every other woman on the planet, right? Which actually made me feel normal, which is kind of scary to think now. But I constantly worried that I would have trouble conceiving. So being a mom and starting a family is something I knew I always wanted. And so I had developed this fear that I would have a difficulty doing that because, well, let's face it, I could only have a regular cycle if I was on the birth control pill, and that didn't seem very conducive to having a baby. But in 2012, the impossible happened, and I became pregnant. Now, we were both surprised and excited at the same time, but our excitement would be short-lived because 6 short months later, at just 27 weeks gestation, I gave birth to our baby boy. Now, he weighed just 2.2 pounds, and he would spend 3 months in the hospital. Now, through my struggles with an irregular cycle and this fear that I had that I would have trouble conceiving, I had developed a lot of shame and guilt around feeling like I had failed as a woman, right? Because it's supposed to be something you should be able to do. But that was nothing compared to the immense guilt that I felt in feeling like I was responsible for my baby boy lying in a hospital bed, literally fighting for his life. And this was my wake-up call. All right, literally having to watch our son fight for his life and seeing his strength and determination to not only survive what he did, but to start thriving, literally caused me to take a stand for my own health. And so that's really what prompted me to go down my own healing journey. And it was a journey that took me from doctor to naturopath to nutritionist. I tried candida diets, raw food diet, a macro diet, and everything in between. While I did see some improvements in my acne, nothing could help me regulate my cycle or bring back my energy. So I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I went back to school. I was going to learn for myself how the body works so I could understand how to support it to heal. And that's exactly what I did. When I found the information that got right down to the root cause of what had been causing my ailments and turned my health around, it literally changed my life. Right? I was able to regulate my cycle. I was able to regain my energy. I reduced my anxiety, and I finally understood what had been behind my acne all those years. So what I realized was that by taking a pill to regulate a symptom, the root cause was still brewing underneath, and it would eventually lead to the premature birth of our son. So educating myself on and eliminating toxins was actually the very first step that I took on my healing journey, and boy, did it make a difference. So up until 7 years ago, I was exposed to the same toxins that we're going to be talking about today, because I was like everybody else. I was simply unaware of some of the dangers that surrounded me. And I thought that, the products that you purchase off the shelf should be safe for human consumption. And sadly, I learned that this isn't always the case, which is why it's so important for us to dig into this topic today. So healing my body really ignited a passion in me to spread the word, right? I wanted other women to know that they didn't have to suffer, they didn't have to be in pain, and that they certainly weren't alone. So now I get to support women with PCOS and endometriosis to reverse their symptoms, take back their power, and live life on their terms. So I'm really excited to dig deeper into things with you today. So I want to kick things off by talking about some of the stats that exist out there. So in a study spearheaded by the Environmental Working Group, researchers found 287 chemicals in the cord blood of newborns. All right, now this is astonishing because babies are essentially being born pre-polluted before ever having consumed a single manufactured product. All right. And an international OBGYN report warns that chemical exposures are a major threat to human health and reproduction. All right, so these are important things to know. So why is this important? It's important because these toxins end up in our body, and they end up in our reproductive systems, and they wreak havoc on our health, okay? So they can contribute to things like the formation of cysts, fibroids, and adhesions. All right, and in turn, this can create a great deal of pain for women, especially during menstruation. And it gets right down to the root cause of things like PCOS and endometriosis. These toxins can disrupt hormones and hormone production. So you're going to hear me talk, got an itch. You're going to hear me talk today about endocrine disruptors, right? And what that means is that they disrupt hormones and hormone production. So a huge issue for women out there. It affects fertility in both men and women, actually. And it's another epidemic that's on the rise, right? Infertility. It contributes to stubborn weight gain. So this is something that really affects women with PCOS. And if you are someone who has struggled with weight and you just can't seem to lose it, no matter what you do, no matter what you eat, then this could be a huge contributing factor. It taxes the adrenals. All right, chronic fatigue is another epidemic amongst women, especially moms. And it's another thing that's considered normal, right? Especially us moms, that it's just normal that you're tired all the time because it's so common, but again, it's not normal. So taxing the adrenals can look like things like chronic fatigue, but can also look like things like thinning of the hair or losing hair, which is actually another big symptom for women with PCOS. So toxins contribute to all these different things. And yes, so again, why does this matter? Because this pain and these symptoms, they consume us, right? They rob us of our lives and of our power. So what can we do, right? That's the big question. So the secret here is to reduce the toxin load that you have control over, all right? And that's exactly what we're talking about today. So I want to take a look at products that are most toxic for your health first. Then we're going to go into some other things. So I want to start things off by talking about perfume and fragrance. Now this is a big one for women, all right? I know a lot of women that do or used to wear a lot of perfume. And so some important things for you to know is that perfume and fragrance, it's essentially a chemical concoction, all right? That's what it is. And if you were to ask me to pick one product that you could eliminate that I think would make the biggest impact on your health, I would pick this. It's that important and it's that toxic, unfortunately. So fragrance actually acts as a loophole in FDA regulation because it's considered a trade secret. All right, so there's actually legislation in place that allows companies to not have to list their ingredients, all of them, so that their formula can't easily be replicated, right? So they're trying to protect their trade secrets and not have others replicate it. But what happens is that the EWG, which is the Environmental Working Group, found that 80% of the chemicals, right, that's a big number, used to make up fragrance have not been tested for human safety. All right? I just wanted that to sink in for a second because it's crazy. So fragrance is a very common ingredient found in many conventional products that we use. So there's perfume, but then there's also fragrance that's used in many bath and beauty products, makeup products, deodorants, cleaning products. It's used in so many products. And within that ingredient fragrance alone, there could be 100 different chemicals just in that one ingredient called fragrance. So I highly recommend, if you guys have Netflix, to watch the documentary called Stink. All right, it's on Netflix, so you can watch it there. But it's really eye-opening, all right, onto some of the things that are happening in the beauty industry, in the consumer product industry. And then these different things that exist, like loopholes, that allows potentially dangerous products to be brought into these things that we use every day. So it's actually about a dad who, his wife passes away from breast cancer, and he's left to raise their 2 young girls. And for Christmas, he orders them these pajama pants. And when he opens the package, he just notices this smell. It's very chemically smelling. It's very strong. And so it prompts him to look into what it is, because these are items that he has bought for his children, and it didn't smell, it smelled harmful to him. So it's about his journey in trying to find out from different companies like this what they actually use in their products. So it's really eye-opening into some of these loopholes that exist in our legislation today. Sorry, having some issues with my talking here. So I want to give you some alternatives to be able to use. So if you're someone who really likes to wear perfume and you like scents, then no worries. There are safer alternatives. So essential oils are an amazing alternative because they are natural, so they're not going to harm you. And you don't need much, right? You just need a drop or two that you can use to be able to smell nice, but not be putting harmful things in your body. So the other thing that's important is to always use a brand that you trust, because even things like this that are natural can contain harmful ingredients, or they can be manufactured in a way that can make them harmful. So it's always important to use a brand that you trust. So for essential oils, I really recommend Living Libations and Young Living. They're 2 really great, clean brands. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And those can just be simply purchased online. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is paint. Now, this might seem like a big item. It's not necessarily a consumer product, but it's really, really important because paint fumes can be incredibly damaging to our health. So you may even notice when you walk into a room that has been freshly painted or freshly lacquered or stained, those are even worse, that you even get a headache or that it somehow bothers you. And that's because these fumes they're incredibly toxic, they're incredibly damaging to our health. So again, this is a chemical concoction that has been created. So I just want you to be aware so that if you're in a place where you're going to be repainting your house or you're buying a new home and it's going to be freshly painted, I want you to have some information that can allow you to make informed, safer choices for you and your family. So some alternatives that you have here is always make sure that you choose low or no VOC paint. It obviously doesn't remove everything, but it definitely reduces the amount of toxins that you would be exposed to. For an even safer option, you can use clay paint. It probably doesn't have the polished finish that paint does, but it's a much, much safer option. Another tip is just to make sure you open the windows. So if you are painting yourself, make sure you have the windows open so that you're not containing those vapors to your direct area. And I always recommend wearing a mask. And it's important to make sure that you're wearing a mask that removes vapors, because that's what's going to make sure that those vapors can't get through the mask and into your body. So some information for you there to, again, just educate yourself and make informed decisions for you and your family. So the last one that we're going to talk about here in terms of most toxic products might surprise you, but it's actually carpet and carpet cleaning products. So carpets actually contain a lot of chemicals themselves. So they contain solvents, fungicides, insecticides, and other toxic chemicals. And on top of that, the products that we use to clean the carpets are actually some of the worst on the market. All right, so they contain a toxic brew of something called solvent chemicals. All right, so solvent chemicals is just like another division of chemicals. But again, it can be very harmful to our health when we're breathing these things in, when we're touching it, when it's on our skin, when it's on our children. So this is obviously a bigger ticket item, and it's not as easy to simply switch it out, and might not be feasible for you. But again, I want this to be something that you have in the back of your mind, so that if you're in a position where you're renovating, you're getting a new home, that you have this information so you can, again, make the best decisions for you and your family. You can make an informed decision. Because I find the worst thing is that when we don't know, it's like our choice is taken away from us, right? Because we don't know. But when we do know, we can at least make the decision ourselves. So that's kind of my goal here, is to be able to give you the education and the knowledge, and then you can do with that what you will. So some alternatives, if you are in a position to be able to make some of these choices. So hardwood would be a better choice. Again, even when you're looking at something like hardwood, I always look at the manufacturers. And what I actually do is I look to manufacturers who adhere to the guidelines in either California or in Europe, because they're much stricter in terms of the off-gassing that they allow or consider safe. So another tip for you there. Wool carpet is a safer alternative, but you want to make sure that you look for wool that does not have insecticides, and that'll be listed even on the back of the sample. So there are safe brands out there that don't use insecticides. Lastly, when you're looking to clean your carpets, I would simply just use a non-toxic soap, right? It doesn't even have to be scented. And something like 7th Generation just has even like a dish soap that you could use as a carpet cleaner, and it's a much safer alternative. So again, this is information that even if you're someone who experiences a lot of pain, and you also have a lot of other symptoms, like you're a very sensitive person, and you've tried everything else, you've done everything that you think you can, this might be the last stop for you. So again, just wanting you to have information to keep you informed. So we're going to move into some other products now. So personal care products is a big, big, big area, especially for women. We tend to use a lot more personal care products than men, right? So unfortunately, personal care products are actually some of the least regulated of consumer products out there. So according to the Office of Cosmetics and Colors at the FDA, a cosmetic manufacturer may use almost any raw material as a cosmetic ingredient and market that product without approval from the FDA. All right? Again, let that sink in. Now, the FDA is an organization that exists in the US. However, the FDA and Health Canada have actually signed an agreement stating that their systems are very comparable to one another. So they follow much of the same information and steps. So this information applies to Canadians and those living in the US. So this is important because the average woman uses 12 personal care products a day. All right, and teenage girls use even more. They'll use about 17. So this is a really important aspect, right? When we're using these products, when we're using a lot of these products and we're using them every single day, you have to know that that starts to add up and take a toll on your body, right? So I want you to be aware of some ingredients that are known endocrine disruptors, all right? And again, this is the kind of stuff that really gets me, because these ingredients have been labeled as endocrine disruptors. They are known to disrupt hormones, and yet they are allowed to be put into products that we consume. So I want you to know what some of them are. So phthalates, parabens, and triclosan are 3 of the big ones. And they are ones that are very prevalent in things like bath products, skincare products, hair products. All right, and they're used for different things. They're used as a preservative. They're used as an antibacterial. They're used even to just get the consistency just right that the manufacturer is looking for. So what I encourage you to do is, after this workshop, go and look at some of the products that you use every day, and see if you find any of these ingredients in them. Or maybe you find other ingredients as well that you don't know even what they are, right? So these are important things as we start to learn this information to become aware of, and reading labels is a really, really important part of that. The other thing that I want to mention is that it seems that girls are actually entering puberty younger and younger. All right, and not only that, but we're seeing some of these things like irregular cycles and painful periods developing in girls at a much younger age. And it's believed that some of these things that have been labeled as endocrine disruptors play a huge role, which makes sense, right? Because endocrine disruptor is, the definition of that is that it disrupts hormones and hormone production. So you can imagine that would take a big toll on something like puberty, which is all about hormones. So again, I want you to have alternatives. I want you to have safer alternatives. So for personal care products, so this is things like bath products, hair products, skin products, and makeup. I recommend Beauty Counter. So it's a company that I use and recommend for a couple of reasons. Number one is that it's committed to providing safer, non-toxic products, consumer personal care products for men and women. But what I really like about them is that they don't just stop there. They are actively advocating to the government to change legislation so that there are more stricter rules and regulations around what we can put in products that people consume. And I don't know about you, but this is something that's very important to me. All right, when I look to use a product and trust in the company, what I'm looking for is that it's non-toxic and that it's safe, but also that their values align with mine. All right, and this is a huge value, and something that's really important to me is that, you know, this is where change happens, right? At the government level, at legislation, that's where change can really happen. So when I entrust in a company that's lobbying, to make those changes, that builds a lot of trust for me in that brand. So that's the reason that I recommend them. I used them for years, and then I actually just recently also started selling them as well, because I found that I was recommending them to my clients a lot, and so now they can simply just purchase them from me. So in the replay email, I'm going to be sending out links, like I mentioned, and one of the links is going to be for Beauty Counter, so you can peruse some of their products, take a look at what they have to offer, and if it interests you, then give them a try. It's definitely a much safer option for you out there. So some of the things that I want to talk about are deodorant and antiperspirant. So these often antiperspirant contains aluminum, which helps to stop sweating, and then deodorant is known to contain toxins, and as well as fragrance, which we talked about and how toxic that can be. So I want you to have safer alternatives. So some of the ones that I recommend are Routine, Native, and Alafia. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm probably not, but so I know that I personally purchased these at a health food store. So in Calgary here, we have Community Natural Health. So that's where I purchased mine, and I myself use Routine right now. My husband uses Alafia, and he really likes it. And then Native is something that I know you can purchase here, but you can also purchase it online. All right, so these are all much safer options for you when it comes to deodorant. Toothpaste is another one. So I use Dr. Bronner's. I like it because it's clean, it's simple, and it works. And so this is something that I simply purchase at my grocery store, so I can get it at Superstore. And I always like things like that when I can get safe, non-toxic products at my grocery store, because it's like a one-stop shop, right? I'm there to get groceries anyway, so I can just pick up some toothpaste as well. So that's an option for you for a safer toothpaste. All right, so I want to get into feminine hygiene products a little bit here, because This is a really big one for women experiencing our irregular cycles and period pain, because these are products that we use every month. And if we're using something like tampons, especially, it goes right into our body, right? So we want to make sure that they're safe. So did you know that conventional tampons and pads actually contain things like bleach and fragrance? All right, and I don't know about you, but I'm sure that you wouldn't knowingly just want to put that down there, right? So we've just learned how harmful fragrance can be, and I'm sure you all know how powerful and strong bleach is. So again, this is a huge area where women are exposed to toxins because some of these things can enter directly into our body, right? So this can contribute greatly to period pain, all right? So this could be a simple fix, all right? This, because every woman's different and we're all at varying levels, we've got different levels of toxins in our bodies. For some of you, a simple switch like this could make such a difference, especially when it comes to period pain each month. So again, sorry, forgot to advance the slides there. So again, I want you to have safer alternatives. So there are, you can buy organic, non-scented tampons and pads. And again, I can actually just get that right at Superstore in the natural aisle, all right? So in most grocery stores now, they have a natural aisle. So that's where I get mine. So again, it's a nice one-stop shop. There's also something that's come out on the market called period panties or leak-proof underwear. So one of the brands is called Mix. So it's basically just like underwear that you wear that is leak-proof. And so they're reusable, you can wash them. So that's another option as well. So it kind of comes down to personal preference, whatever you're more comfortable with, whatever you prefer. Now, there are also something called menstrual cups out there. All right, one of the brands is called Diva Cups, and they're really known for decreasing their environmental impact because they're reusable. Now, for me personally, I don't at this time recommend them, just because I need to do some more research on making sure that the products that they're using to make these cups aren't toxic or harmful. So I don't know enough yet, so at this time I don't recommend them. All right, so we're going to move into something talking about cleaning products, and what you're going to find here is that, you know, it follows the same suit. It's much the same, right? In terms of many of these conventional products are simply chemical concoctions. Now, a point that I want to make here is, from the things that we've talked about so far, I'm willing to bet that you have all been exposed to probably almost all of those, right, in your life. And so something to note and keep in the back of your mind is that it isn't just one place that we're exposed to things, right? It's all these things, different places that add up. So I want you to keep in mind that while a lot of companies do testing on their products, they're testing for that single product and its effect on health, say. But we're never just exposed to that product. Right? We're exposed to things we can't control, like the air. We're exposed to all these different products that we use every single day. And it's that all adds up, right? All of it matters. All of it makes an impact on our health. So just something to keep in mind as we're moving through these things. So cleaning products, again, you know, you might just recognize that when you walk into some place and it's been freshly cleaned, you know, you have that, it has that smell. And unfortunately, fragrance is actually often used to achieve that lemony fresh smell or whatever it is. It's not actually lemon itself, right? So it's essentially chemicals that they're using to recreate the smell of lemon. So these can be very harmful, again, because we are inhaling them, right? We're smelling the fumes. We're potentially using them to clean surfaces that we touch or that we eat off of. So it's really important because it's another way that we can take in toxins. So some safer alternatives for you. So vinegar is actually a great option, and especially if you can get distilled vinegar, right? That's the cleanest kind. But it is multi-purpose. You can use it to clean the stove, to clean the bathroom, to clean glass. I actually even use it as a softener, so I will put it in our laundry machine, clothes washing machine. Sorry, it slipped my mind there. And even in our dishwasher, I'll use it as like a softening agent. So that's a really simple and great option. Seventh Generation is again another brand that I trust for cleaning products. I don't use a lot of cleaning products. My cleaning products are very simple, so it's not something that I have, you know, hundreds of different products for. And again, you can get that at your grocery store, at like Superstore. Another option is Norwex microfiber cloths. I mean, these are a great option because they often have, you know, a rag that you can wipe with and then one that you can buff with. And then that eliminates any cleaning products that you have to use. So I really love them and they work really well. I don't necessarily recommend all of Norwex products. They could be a bit cleaner, but the microfiber cloths, I definitely do, and I definitely use them myself. All right, so number 7 on the list is the sides. I don't know if you've ever heard of them termed that way before, but I'm talking about pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, rodenticides, right? These are, again, chemicals that are created to do various different things. So according to the Environmental Working Group, many chemicals used to create these sides are known carcinogens, which means it's known to cause cancer, or they're known endocrine disruptors, which we've already talked about a few times previously. All right, so essentially what we're talking about is that these chemicals that we spray on food that we eat, on the clothes that we wear, and it's in the air that we breathe, are essentially contain things that are known to cause cancer and disrupt our hormones. All right, so before using any of these products at home, right, if you're someone that likes to spray, you know, you like to spray the weeds, you like to spray to get rid of ants, whatever it is, I encourage you to seek out a safer alternative, all right, before going and buying the conventional product that you might use. So what I simply do in this case is if I'm trying to get rid of something, I will just Google it. I will Google a natural alternative to it. So say, for example, I want to deter ants or something like that. Then I would simply Google natural ant spray or ant deterrent, something like that. And, you know, recipes will pop up that often are just made from things that you have in your kitchen that you use every day. So I just encourage you, before you go and spray, to seek out a safer alternative, and just know that, you know, the spray that you're using is going to be a lot more detrimental than something like the ants around your house or something like that. So again, just more information for you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about new clothes. So unfortunately, new clothes are sprayed with fungicides, all right? And because we wear clothes directly onto our skin, those fungicides can get onto our skin and they can reach into our bodies. So a way to keep yourself safe or safer is that I always, always, always recommend that you wash new clothes before wearing them, right? Because that really helps to knock down the amount of chemicals that you're going to be exposing yourself to. So that being said, you want to make sure that the detergent that you're using is actually safe and non-toxic as well, because we don't want to be washing away chemicals with chemicals, right? So again, right now I use the detergent by 7th Generation. And again, it's because it's in Superstore, it's easy for me because I'm already there. I know that Costco also sells a safer brand. I can't remember the name of it right now, but they sell a safer brand. So some things for you to look for when you're looking for a safer option is I always recommend to read the label and watch out for things like fragrance. Right? If anything has fragrance in it, I won't buy it. And another tip that you can take with you is to, if it says that it's biodegradable, that's another great tip, that it's much more natural and safe. So those are some things to ponder the next time that you buy laundry detergent. All right, so let's spend some time talking about food, all right? Because food has an incredible ability to either hinder or heal us. So it's very, very important. So I want to talk a little bit about conventional versus organic produce. Now, in the most recent testing, all right, this is the newest testing that was released by the Environmental Working Group, they found 45 different chemicals on strawberries alone, all right? Again, like we talked about with the sides, many of these chemicals are known carcinogens, known to cause cancer, or endocrine disruptors, known to disrupt hormones. So again, these chemicals are being sprayed on the food that we eat. And it's a huge contributing factor to why we're suffering so much health-wise these days. So the Environmental Working Group also puts out 2 different lists that I highly recommend you use as a great resource for you. So they put out something called the Dirty Dozen, which is the most heavily sprayed produce. They're the 12 produce items that are most heavily sprayed with chemicals. So I always recommend that you purchase those organically, because they can see, it's an area that you're exposing yourself to being exposed to the most chemicals. They also put out something called the Clean 15. Now these are the 15 conventional or 15 produce items that are the least sprayed. They have the least amount of chemicals found on them. So if cost is an issue for you, then that's something that would be safer to purchase conventionally. And I'll be sending out those references for you as well. So if cost is an issue, if you're needing to watch your budget, then I want to give you some options here of different approaches that you can take. So one approach is to purchase anything with an edible skin. So I mean like apples, grapes, cucumbers, anything where you eat the whole fruit or vegetable, that you purchase those organically, all right? Because then at least you're consuming way less chemicals and toxins than you would be if you ate those conventionally. And then anything with a peel, so something like a banana, an orange, an avocado, something like that where you peel it before you eat it, maybe you purchase those conventionally because it would have less of an exposure for you. If you're not able to purchase anything organic, then what I suggest is that you always wash your produce before you consume it. So you can simply wash it in a non-toxic, unscented soap to try and get that residue off as much as you can. Again, I just have a unscented soap by 7th Generation. It's just like a dish soap that I use to quickly wash things and rinse before I eat it if I was going to purchase anything conventionally that's not organic. All right, so lastly, I want to talk a little bit about water, just briefly. So water, even like city and town water, is another area where we can be exposed to different toxins and chemicals. So city and town water often contains chlorine and fluoride, which are actually toxins that our liver has to process out. So I always recommend drinking filtered water, no matter where you are. And so I recommend buying something called a Berkey filter. But this is something that we really delve deeper into part 2 of this workshop series, which talks all about hydration. So we're definitely going to be digging in more to that in workshop number 2. All right, so I feel like we've covered a lot already, right? So I just want to give you a chance to kind of take a deep breath, let that sink in. I'm going to grab some water quickly. So again, I don't want you slipping into overwhelming fear. I want you to take this information to empower yourself and just use it to be able to make informed decisions for you and your family. All right, so just continue to keep that in mind. So with that, thinking I want to take you through how you can actually gradually switch to safer products to reduce the overwhelm that can sometimes come along with change. So I always recommend switching to safer products gradually. Makes it much easier. And like I said, it helps to reduce that feeling of being overwhelmed, right? Don't think that you have to go and replace everything in your house right now. So let's go through how we can gradually switch to these safer products. So what I recommend is that you identify an area from what we've talked about already where you would be most exposed, an area where you'd be most heavily exposed to toxins, right? Because it's going to be different for everyone. If you're someone that uses personal care products every day, or if you're someone that uses lots of perfume, all right, wherever you think you might be most heavily exposed, start there. So you identify that area, and then what you do is simply, once you run out of that product, simply replace it with a safer alternative. Now, the only thing that I would recommend replacing right away would be like perfume, because I just don't ever recommend using that. It's just so toxic. So, but for anything else, simply as you run out of that product, just replace it with a safer, more natural alternative. And then once you've done that, you just go on to the next one, all right? And you just work at a pace that works, go at a pace that works for you. And don't get overwhelmed, and don't be thinking, oh my gosh, you know, don't beat yourself down, I guess, if you're still consuming products as you're kind of naturally bringing them in. Know that whatever products you are changing out, it's still making a difference on your health. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about next steps. All right, where do we go from here? Because today we focused on an area that really can make a huge impact on this in this epidemic that we're talking about. So the epidemic I'm talking about is women suffering in pain and thinking that it's normal, just going along life thinking they have to suffer. And learning how we can eliminate toxins is a huge, huge, huge first step in getting us out of pain and regulating our cycles and not having to live and suffer like this. So now you might be thinking, what about existing toxins, right? You may notice that you've consumed some of the products we've talked about today, and you may be thinking, okay, well, I'm sure that I have toxins in my body then, or, you know, what even about the toxins that we can't control, like the air that we breathe? So that's actually exactly what part 2 of this workshop series is all about, because we talk all about hydration and how we can use hydration to detoxify our bodies, so to get these toxins out of our body. And I want to make a note here that hydration goes far beyond simply drinking water and drinking enough of it, right? There's so much more to hydration than just water. So I'm so excited to dig deeper into that with you in our next workshop series. So that being said, we are doing part 2, which is hydration, a deeper dive. So I want you to mark your calendars for 2 weeks from today, which is Wednesday, November 13th, at the same time from 7 till 8. And it's going to be in the same format over a Zoom video call. Now, for anyone that has already signed up for this workshop series, you're going to get a link for the next Zoom video call. It'll be a new link. And if you do know someone else who could benefit from this information, I encourage you to share it, right? The more the merrier. The more women that we can educate and get out of pain, the better. So if you do know of anyone, simply have them email me at info@jenniferbago.ca, and I can set them up with the link to the next video series. So my goal and mission in life is really to break the silence around women and our cycles and the pain that we experience and this pain that we perceive as normal. You know, we as women don't talk about our cycles that much as it is. You know, it's still a very taboo subject in a way. And so my goal is to break this silence so that we're talking about it and we're educating ourselves to know that we can get out of pain and not have to suffer and struggle through life. So by the end of this 3-part workshop series, my goal is that you're well on your way to having a regular pain-free period. All right, so you want to make sure that you catch all 3 workshops, because at the end of the 3rd call, I have a very special gift for everyone here. So please know that you don't have to suffer, that there's another way, a better way. So that concludes the formal part of our discussion here. So I want to open it up now to any questions that you might have. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to bring it back to video here. And I'm going to hop in the chat. All right, Melissa, yes. So we are going to be, I am going to be sending out all this information I kind of have like a little cheat sheet. So you'll have the products and the brands for you. So that'll all be sent out in the replay. So thank you for asking that. So if you guys have any more questions, simply make a note of it in the chat, and you can either ask your question in the chat, or I can actually unmute you and you can ask it here. So if any of you have any questions, just let me know. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys, thank you for the comments. I'm glad that you enjoyed this information, and that hope that it was helpful and that you guys can put it into action right away. All right, so there's no questions. Awesome. Well, then I look forward to seeing you all in workshop number 2, which happens in 2 weeks. And until then, take care.